It's a last resort, but the thunderous beat of a rescue helicopter would sound relief to a mariner in peril. More than likely, the life-saving link to those at sea would have come from a call from the often unsung and unrecognised members of the Royal Volunteer Coastal Patrol. They'd organised a Sea Safety Expo promoting the use of marine radios and life-saving equipment in recreational boats. It coincides with the MSB's latest spot check campaign for life jackets, which carries a $400 fine for boat owners caught without them.
There are more and more people every year taking to the water, many of them of course ill-prepared in terms of training and equipment.
Police Minister Ted Pickering launched the expo, which featured static displays as well as demonstrations of the latest safety equipment and visits from the HMAS Fremantle and the Lifesaver helicopter. The Lloyd's long-range rescue chopper showed how it would go about saving a hapless mariner. The Royal Volunteer Coastal Patrol at Port Stephens offers a safety net to those venturing out, but stresses the importance of a few quick checks before leaving.
Make sure you've got life jackets on board. It's just as dangerous as on the road. You're careful when you're on the road. You watch where you're going, watch what you're doing. The ocean is very unforgiving. You can't get out and fix your vessel. You're stuck there. If something goes wrong, you're stuck there, and we have to go and find you. So let us know where you are or where you're going.
I can only hope, of course, that it means that someone or more people will be released on both sides. I don't know. They gave me no specific information on that there will be good news. We weren't told who might be released, whether it would be me or Tom or Terry or someone else. I don't think that's terribly important at this moment, which one of us goes free.
Instead of flying, the Air Force was frying this morning, whipping up breakfast for a multitude of Matara revellers. The traditional bacon and eggs breakfast was a big favourite. Even Lord Mayor John McNaughton was tempted. But the RAF caterers had plenty more tempting offers, from croissants for the cultured to salad for the health conscious, and for those after a different taste sensation, moussaka. The Air Force estimates that up to 4,000 people took part in the park breakfast, enjoying a nutritious start to a busy day of Matara festivities. The breakfast was one way of sharing RAF Base Williamtown's 50th anniversary, and organisers solemnly swore the effort wasn't a new recruitment campaign. For those who weren't up early enough for the breakfast, the Air Force will have a demonstration of flambe cooking on Thursday.
The Hunter Water Board has 23 plumbing inspectors. Among their duties, to check that connections are legal and the water we drink is not contaminated.
We got a situation in East Maitland reported to us just recently that there's been horsefly larvae regulars getting back siphoned into the system and finding its way up into other people's tap water.
But as the board prepares for corporatisation in January, the number of inspectors is to be drastically cut. The union says by as many as 14. However, the union maintains that with fewer random inspections, the number of undetected contamination incidents will rise, and with it, the risk to public health.
I don't believe that's going to happen. The board still will have the right under any circumstances to go in and do random audits of these things or request another organisation to do those for us anyway.
A steady throng of holiday makers have enjoyed the pleasures of Matara and the park throughout the week. Today the emphasis was on a fairground atmosphere, and the bright breezy spring weather proved just as tempting as the many sideshows and exhibits. Once again the Air Force were out in strength as RAF Base Williamtown celebrated its 50th anniversary by enjoying its new freedom of the city status. Their display focused today on the hardware of the military trade. This is just one of the fearsome weapons that make the F-18 Hornet such a deadly adversary. Budding young fighter pilots were given a rare opportunity to experience some of the sensations of sitting in the cockpit, even if the ejector seat is only a static display. And for youngsters with less of an appetite for warfare, there was always the eccentric excitement of Super Hubert's magic show. Civic Park will continue to be a focus for Matara festivities tomorrow, with music, theatre and poetry.
Playing in the shore break at Newcastle Beach, these youngsters look a picture of health. But come lunchtime, they queue up to drown themselves in fat.
A chip roll with barbecue sauce, thanks.
A Newcastle University study has shown local teenagers to be among the nation's biggest consumers of fast food.
Newcastle teenagers seem to have or get a higher proportion of their energy from high-fat foods and simple carbohydrates, which are things like sugary foods, soft drinks, cakes and biscuits.
At the Newcastle Beach kiosk, healthy food such as salad now comes only by special request.
Well, at the end of the day we were throwing it out because we didn't like to serve anything that wasn't fresh each day. So we found that people, they just didn't want the sandwiches, so we just don't carry it now.
Salad was healthy.
And you don't like healthy things?
No, not really. These ones are tastier.
I wouldn't be eating them if I didn't like them.
Because that's what you normally order when you go to the beach, junk food.
But far from being fun, too much fast food can be fatal.
So it indicates that these children, because of their poor eating habits, are more likely to develop heart disease because of obesity or high cholesterol levels later on.
Of course, the key word is moderation. There's nothing wrong with the occasional bucket of chips, but as a regular part of any diet, they're strictly for the birds. Bruce Mackenzie, NBN News. The 16-tonne silo was eased onto Tomigo Road just before 10 o'clock this morning. 16 metres long and 5 metres in diameter, it dwarfed the prime mover that carried it. The $130,000 silo has taken a team of 10 3 months to complete, but the final moments were among the most difficult. A lead car equipped with an insulated measuring pole checked the height of overhead power lines, and it was just as well. Once onto the Waterboard's Grahamstown property, the difficulties continued. The rear wheels of the prime mover's trailer were pressed into the ground by the massive weight and almost became bogged on several occasions. That rectified, there were only a few overhanging trees to contend with. The silo was finally lowered into place by crane. Its 100-tonne capacity will be used to store lime.
The The problem of lead contamination in Bullaroo and Argenton is well known. 2 weeks ago, residents from the area travelled to Port Pirie in South Australia to look at a decontamination program underway in the town. Part of that $30 million program involves the removal of lead-based paint from houses. Although the Pasminco metal sulphide plant is obviously the primary cause of the lead problem in Bullaroo, there are other sources. According to Dr. John Stevenson, areas like Hamilton, Stockton, Cooks Hill and Carrington are affected, with pre-1960 houses coated with lead-based paint. Jodie McKay, NBN News. Interested parties had until midnight last night to express an interest in taking over the Wallsend Hospital site. Hunter Retirement Living is part of the Uniting Church. It is the largest provider of aged care in the region, and according to a spokesman for the organisation, it would like to extend its operation to meet the increasing need for aged care in Newcastle. The area administrator supports the need for more beds for the elderly.
I think development of aged care facilities would involve a mixture of community health services, day centres, day hospital, as well as accommodation for the aged. And I think a mixed development of the site involving private or charitable organisations and the area health service would probably be the best.
The second submission from the United Mine Workers has been well supported by the community. However, Dr. Smythe questions the viability of their proposal.
They've seriously underestimated the cost of just establishing a private hospital, and I don't really think there's enough business in Newcastle to open up another 160 private hospital beds.
The union says its feasibility study is underway and it remains confident.
All of the indications are, and we're testing several areas not included in our original submissions, are that it will be viable.
On a more unusual note, a local dance studio would like to fill the hospital with the sound of music. Dr. Smythe believes some space could be leased to the dance company. Meanwhile, the picket line is being maintained by a devoted group of locals.
I want to see this hospital back again, if not as it was, but functioning as a hospital.
After consultation with the area's task force, Dr. Smythe will make a recommendation to the Health Minister about the future use of the Wallsend Hospital site.
Love it or hate it, you can't deny that the Newcastle Motordrome is one of the great survivors and providers of high-speed entertainment to thousands of people. From those early beginnings way back in 1970-71, there's been plenty of changes.
I guess the most important thing has been the changes in the sport itself, not only in the administration but also in the presentation and the vehicles and the way the associations and the clubs conduct themselves and the drivers themselves in the vehicles and out of the vehicles. I think it's been tremendous.
Along with the changes in cars and drivers, the motordrome itself has had a facelift or two, with a wooden fence being replaced by a concrete wall, a safety catch fence added, a clubhouse built, corporate boxes and electronic hardware also installed. And this season promises to be one of the best yet.
In the Super Sedans particularly, we've got the ISP Super Sedan Series Masters happening again this year, and it's been expanded to 8 rounds. Last year was only 4, and the competition was absolutely enormous. The additional prize money and the kudos that comes out of that series will be absolutely fantastic. Modified rides again, we've got the Australian title here this year. We've got a number of New South Wales championships, the minor divisions. Overall, it's going to be a great season.
This artist impression of the new rail car, dubbed a Sprinter, will be a reality on Victorian country railway lines by mid-1995. Ganennan's Engineering in Newcastle has won a contract to build 22 Sprinters for the Victorian Public Transport Commission. Company spokesman Anthony Finnegan says Ganennan's innovative design won the deal.
These vehicles are diesel powered and they are all self-propelled, so they will be replacing previous trains that operated with locomotives hauling them. This is a design advantage for the customer, and he's got new technology, a greater level of comfort and a higher level of service for his customer, the travelling people of Victoria.
It's the second contract Ganennan's has won in Victoria. Last year they sealed a deal to build a demonstrator passenger train for Melbourne's suburban railway system based on the Tangara design, now a familiar feature of Sydney commuter lines. This latest contract provides important continuity for a company battling tough economic times. Ganennan's is reluctant to raise community expectations about employment as a result of the contract. However, as one executive observed, even maintaining present work levels is cause for celebration. Tom Hilston, NBN News.
Among the sandhills and tea trees at Salamander, the Horizons Club Resort is being carved. Once the earth movers have finished, the 86-hectare parcel of land will be the site of a 5-star hotel, 60 villas and an international golf course.
Horizons Club Resort will certainly be the #1 development or resort in the Hunter area.
The $120 million resort is being developed by the Japanese corporation NID. At the official launch, Port Stephens Shire President Bob Horn made the most of the resort's name to call for continued ties between Japan and the Blue Water Wonderland.
We hope the horizons for all Australians are expanded by the fact that you have participated in this development with us.
Councillor Horn says the injection of the yen into the port will help create thousands of jobs, but he won't be among the region's civic leaders participating in a trade display in Tokyo later this month, promoting the tourism potential of the Hunter.
I've been talking to a few people, individuals, business people, that will probably make the trip and will be quite capable of representing our shire.
It was though the BHP Breakers had been in the league for years, with captain Andy Kosker and Noel Barclay testing the defence early. With a crowd willing the side to find the back of the net for the first time in the NSL, the Breakers were inspired, the desired result coming in the 12th minute thanks to Meyer, Numov and Barclay. Barclay was unstoppable up front and threatened every time he got a touch. The second came in the 32nd minute thanks to Kosker. To Heddle, back to the captain, a quick touch to Barclay, a brilliant ball back to Kosker, and it was 2-0. South Melbourne were in tatters, and their frustrations overflowed with a rash of yellow cards being waved. Ralph Meyer seized on some slack defence and nearly made it 3-0. In the second half, a dose of the same from the Breakers. Heddle brilliant in the midfield and Barclay's shot soaring over the top. The sealer came from the experienced men Heddle to Koska, coming through the middle. He linked with Kosh, who found Darren Northam, and the crowd celebrated number 3. The champions were able to pull one back with a shot of the night by Danny Wright. The Breakers nearly scored again when Meredith's shot was deflected onto the woodwork, but to no avail. And the Newcastle NSL connection at full-time thoroughly deserved their 3-1 win and the standing ovation they received from their fans. Time to let the hair down and relax after a season of turmoil and indifferent performances before it all starts again in earnest in the near future. Around 500 partygoers converged on the night's Castle, a la Western Suburbs Leagues Club, for the gala evening which went to the wee small hours of this morning. To the awards, and Rodney Howe picked up the trophy for the President's Cup Players Player, Steve Fulmer the similar award for reserve grade, and Bradley Godden was presented with the Encouragement Award after a sparkling debut. Back to Hagan, Hagan to Godden, Godden in a bit of space, dances out of one, Godden now, Godden's going to score his first grade try right under the sticks. Youngster Steve Crow won the Coaches Award for an outstanding year, making it into the top grade for the Knights. But the man that scooped the pool was Mark Glanville, unable to be there last night owing to the fact that he was to be married in Wagga today. Mark won the Players' Player of the Year and also the Player of the Year, gratefully accepted by Captain Michael Hagan. And there was no doubt MG was the player of 91.
The standard of medical health care in the Hunter is one patient doctors say they can't save. They say it's taken more than 30 years to build the facilities and reputation of one of the country's best equipped and respected training and treatment centres. The loss of millions of dollars in funding and beds brought on by the establishment of the John Hunter Hospital could leave the people of the region with a second-rate service. The doctors claim the sacking of the health board, the appointment of an administrator and the subsequent amputation of services such as the Wallsend Hospital are early symptoms of the government's downgrading of services.
Their bottom line is money. Our bottom line is the care of patients, and we really want to continue to care for patients in the manner of which we've all been trained.
Taking off where marches, strikes, picket lines and now long waiting lists for essential surgery have failed, doctors have mounted their own protest campaign aimed at patients.
It's very difficult to know what they can do, but I think that they must know that we are trying our best. If they can influence administrators and governments in supplying of money to this area, we'd be very grateful for them so that we can continue to supply them a high standard of service.
Novocastrians with an appetite for fun got into today's Matara activities, first up with a pie-eating contest, followed by bowls of ice cream which barely had the chance to melt. Mr Magic added his touch to what's been ideal festival weather. There's been everything from the homemade to the harmonies of the Sweet Adeline singers. And then the high-tuned racing cars on a shakedown run for the Matara hill climb tomorrow.
The big event of the day will be the parade. They'll be leaving up at the foreshore round about the 12 o'clock mark, maybe 11:30, 12, and they'll proceed down, all the way down Scott Street into Hunter, and then round, of course, in front of City Hall, where they'll be finishing off. And, of course, that parade will be really magic. We've got over 80 separate entrants, and they included the equestrian, floats, pedestrians, you name it, it's in there.